Hey folks, Red Labor here. I want to do a quick commentary on the Tea Party and links to extremist politics. Now, I want to get one thing started. Although I've never been a fan of the Tea Party, and I find a lot of what the Tea Party would be all about very objectionable, and I object to Tea Party on grounds of my socialist politics, much of their stance against trade unions, much of the social conservatism that exists among the evangelicals that are involved with this. I mean, well, for these reasons and quite a few others, I do not particularly care for the Tea Party. I think it's a very unenlightened movement, politically speaking. Having that said, I think there are people in the Tea Party who are sincerely libertarian, in the sense that they have animosity toward the state, and there are probably people in the Tea Party who although I do find libertarian economics somewhat negative, do have the more benevolent side of libertarianism, meaning that they're not going to have problems with pot legalization, and they're going to be opposed to torture and opposed to war and opposed to discrimination against gay and lesbians, that sort of thing. A friend of mine who's libertarian and critical to the Tea Party, I love this quote: "You can't be a libertarian and be for waterboarding at the same time." And I feel like that's much of what the Tea Party, that describes the Tea Party. They want to think themselves as libertarians, but much of that movement are okay with things like enhanced interrogation. They're okay with big government when it comes to people like George W. Bush doing the big government governing, but when it comes to when liberals or supposed liberals are involved with big government schemes, then they start to question it. A selective outrage. But even the faction of the bulk of the Tea Party that I do not particularly care for, I will not accuse most of them of racism. They simply despise Barack Obama for being what they believe is a liberal Democrat. They think he's a liberal Democrat. They think he's a socialist. He is a Democrat, but barely a liberal. They think he's a socialist, which he is not. And some of them even think he's a communist. Now, there's nothing particularly racial or racist about thinking that the president you despise is a liberal, a socialist, or a communist. They're wrong, but they're not racist necessarily. But let's talk about a faction of the Tea Party which is questionable, because I've heard on YouTube members of the Ku Klux Klan. I believe his name is Thomas Robb up in Michigan. I think he's initially a Baptist pastor from Michigan, who heads one of the factions of the Ku Klux Klan, praising the Tea Party. Harold Covington, who worked with George Lincoln Rockwell's old American Nazi Party. He pretty much, on one of his radio shows, I think it was called Northwest Front, says, the Tea Party is the white man's movement. And I've heard a local radio talk show one time praise the National Socialist Movement, one of the various factions of what used to be the old American Nazi Party, praising them for apprehending Latinos in the border, at the border, and turning them into U.S. authorities. And I mean, what the hell? Really, what the hell? But sometimes there are people out there that are so extreme. Some of these militia types. I mean, it's like they're so angry, and their politics is so ugly. One would make you think that they read the Turner Diaries by William Pierce's book, The Turner Diaries, and got just politically motivated. Now, as I said, that faction I do think is small, but they are sadly a relevant faction. Just as being on the left, seeing people like the Workers' World Party or Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. The initials of that organization's Answer, and the Party for Liberation and Socialism, and groups like that, working with Islamic jihadists in these anti-war movements, and finding some of these people on Occupy Wall Street. Again, the Occupy Wall Street would never have anything to do with these nasty extremists on the far left and some of the Islamic jihadists, and same thing with the anti-war movement. They just wouldn't. And I'm going to say the same thing about the Tea Party. Whether you're a libertarian or you're just a hardcore generic garden variety right-wing Republican type. I know you guys may see some of these racist elements and don't want anything to do with it. So I'm trying to be reasonable here. So when some of you guys like to point fingers and use guilt by association and make blanket indictments against the left, I mean, this is the kind of thing that I can't blame some on the left for throwing it right back at your face. But I'm going to be intellectually honest here. You're going to find dupes, assholes, and just negative factions of whatever movement on both sides of the spectrum. Whereas the milk on both sides may adhere to a certain level of reasonableness. And that's basically what I'm trying to say. And so I'm go on this forum and I talk about the shenanigans of the far right, and there are going to be times I'm going to do the same thing on the far left, because I believe in intellectual honesty, and I do not believe in vilifying people on either side of the spectrum that are not guilty of some of the worst accusations being tossed by the opposing side. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about, and I'll catch you later. Please comment and have a great day.